Hello and welcome to the Ask Weldon Show, episode 251. We finally made it past 250. And this is the show where you call in with your question and I answer it. And right now I am bereft of questions. I have one question from a caller, two from Twitch chat, and that'll be the show for today. Now that I'm kicked this off again and I'm able to do it every single day, kind of like I was last year, I need more questions. So I am begging you guys, listeners, to please go to anchor.fm/Weldon Green. And then I think it's /message, or you click on the message button there and you can call in your show, and it's on the phone. You can use the phone app. I think you can do it on the website now. Either way, it's really nice. As you'll hear from this first caller, it kind of tunes your voice a little bit, makes you sound a little bit like you're talking on an expensive microphone, kind of a calling over the radio sound. So that's why I use this app. It also organizes everything so I can click on your questions nicely. There is no question that is too dumb. If it's a dumb question, I just won't put it on the show. Don't worry. So if you're worried about that, don't just call it in. And if you're worried that you think it's going to sound lame, I'm really good at judging questions since I've gotten thousands of them since I started the show, so I can filter for you. So let me be your filter. Just don't hesitate and call. Today's show is called LS Thinks It Is Better to Scrim Down Than Up. Running on the LS clickbait. Thank you, Nick. I think you still have the highest viewed video, almost, or second highest viewed video on my show. So that's kind of funny. And then 5 performance mindset tips and another question from a caller. Anyway, without further ado, let's jump into question number 1.
Hi, Weldon Green. I'm Denku, 18 years old, Academy mid laner. Can you give me the 5 most needed mindsets, like to become the best League of Legends player, like the best of 5 mindsets? Thank you, Weldon.
All right, so technical difficulty there, showing the wrong question on the card. But essentially, this is the question: 5 performance tips. So what should a performance mindset contain? What are the 5 most important aspects of a performance mindset? I think the first one is essentially like humility, or you would think the ability to learn from yourself and learn from others at all times. To learn from people who are way worse than you, to learn from people who are better than you, to learn from people who are the same skill as you, to learn from people who have no right to advise you on the thing that you're being advised on. And the way that works is like somebody gives you advice about something completely irrelevant to the thing you're learning, and you're able to extrapolate some meaning that will help you in the pursuit of your task or mastery of your craft. I think that can take the form of the word humility. It can also take the form growth mindset. It can also take the word super driven or egotistical, but to the point where you're always seeking for help no matter what. So I think that there's a lot of ways to look at how you want to define that term, but I just described what it is, and just to be the ability to learn from people who might irritate you or that you might have a disagreement with in another form. Okay, the second most important thing is the ability to handle conflict and stress and emotional frustrations while moving forward. The ability to either plow through them or tolerate them. If you can't handle pain, then you can't run sprints and get really sick and feel like you want to vomit and then push through and keep going anyway. That's a necessary skill in traditional sport, is the tolerance of pain. Emotional pain, like that's putting you with limits of your physical behavior. And then the same is true for electronic sport training and for performance mindset, is the ability to handle emotional pain in that way, which is a lot more difficult than people think it is. And usually it's conditioned through being an athlete or through being a performer, such as a musician or a public speaker, and kind of builds off of that. All right, number 3. So those are the most 2 important ones. After that, everything is kind of like all in the same bucket of equal importance, left or right. And I think that we'll just go with those 2. I could do a whole show called the 5 tips, but I think the most important 2 are those. And you can build those up as an athlete or by doing things like, okay, I'm going to train today and scrim a couple times or play a couple solo queue games, and then I'm going to force myself to go to the gym, because I know it's good for me, and I want to force myself to undergo emotional stress, which is instead of doing avoidance, I will do this habit even though I don't want to. Emotional conditioning. And so, you can train this kind of however you like. For the humility one, it's always finding value in everything that you do. Maybe journal a little bit if you can't do that, so that you can process the experiences you've had better and find the learning in them. Those are my tips. All right, let's jump into announcements. Okay, boy, this jerky video thing is actually really annoying. I gotta figure out how to solve that. I'll call the technicians over tomorrow into the stream room and point it out to them. Maybe we can figure it out. Anyway, announcements are the Mac program is back up and running. So I'll talk about that after the second question. The season is going pretty well for CLG. We're going into the 8th week of the season, and we have 4 games left, and we're tied for second. And I'm short on questions. I already said before, you're going to call in. No other real announcements other than that I got a awesome Bluetooth headset today for my phone to listen to podcasts with as I bike home. It only cost $29 because that's the world we live in now. Woo! All right. Question number 2. So this question is from Twitch, from Bumpadump, and he asks, how can I become more visible and make my name as an amateur caster? Okay. There's really only one way that I know how to do this. I'm sure that there's plenty of ways to actually do it in the real world. Probably some of these involve connections and jobs and stuff like that. But the only way that I know is to cast and produce content, and then to try to get it in front of people who are making decisions, and then to try to get free exposure through networking and online networking, such as like editing videos or doing casting for people who have larger audiences, and then getting connected through them to people who have other audiences or who are looking for your skill set. The only successful person I've mentored in this outside of athletes, so I've created a number of esport athletes kind of accidentally with my mentoring, or intentionally with my mentoring, and professional ones. And the only person that I know that's kind of like I was talking to before and I'm talking to now, and they used some of my advice and ignored some of my advice, and before they were working as an engineer and now they're working as an esport person, would be the social media manager for Golden Guardians, Sam. And so basically that's what he did. He just worked on making a valuable skill set, and then he tried to get connected and in front of people who needed work from him and who were willing to recommend him to other people who needed work, and then got a job after he moved out here to LA. So that's about all I know on how to do that, or that's the only path that I could recommend, because that's the one that I took, and that's the one that I see works for them. But it's really serendipity and luck at that point, and there's not, like, you can work really, really hard and make a ton of videos and never get any traction and never get a job. So I just want you to understand that aspect of it as well. All right, and this is the part of the show where I recommend to you my MAC program. It's an online video training course for mindfulness, acceptance, commitment training, which is the meditation and mindfulness and performance mindset program that I kind of ran CLG through back in 2015 when I first came on with them, and then TSM in 2016, and then G2 in 2017, and now CLG again in 2019 after my year off. So you can try it. It's basically 50 online videos. That's all it is. The extra material has kind of fallen away over the years as I've gone through different versions. This is the 3rd version, and I'm making it into an app. And it's the kind of grandfathered thing where you buy it once and you get it forever. So this is already the 3rd version. Everybody who bought the first one is still in and going to be getting membership to the app once it comes out in the next 6 months or so. So be sure to check that out, mindgames.gg/MAC, mindgames.gg/MAC, and you can use the code AskWeldon to it gives you a $5 discount. It's mostly to incentivize people to use the code so that I know that you came from this video. That's why it exists. So yeah, make sure you use this code. Otherwise, it's $5 more. All right, let's go to the 3rd question. LS thinks it's better to scrim down than up. Do NA teams believe this? All right, so this is a question from somebody who is referencing something he said on stream. I have not seen the thing that he says on stream, but this is as a concept is pretty understandable. And so I can talk about whether I think it's good or not, and LS can clarify his statements at some point if he thinks he was misrepresented by this viewer of his. All right, so I think this is a little bit dependent on your players. So in traditional sport, it's absolutely true. You should scrim like 80. You should train 80% of the time in an easier setting, so that you can practice perfection and actually get stuff done and rehearse it. And then you should be challenged upward in terms of execution, like 20% of the time. But I think that's in traditional sport, where you can work on your skills in the form of a drill. In electronic sport, not electronic sport, in League of Legends in particular, where there is no training mode and no ability to do drills, we combine two different types of training. We have scrimmage training, which is team coordination and stuff. And then we have mechanics training, like one-on-one laning training, which happens in team fight training, like mechanical team fight training, which happens also in the same scrimmage. So I have seen teams be very successful scrimmaging most of the time up. I have seen teams be very successful scrimmaging most of the time down. I think that if a team is tanking horribly and just doing really, really bad and can't seem to win, they need to train down. And they should increase their scrims till they're scrimming 80% of the time down, because it makes it easier. I also think that if a team is plateauing and they're not able to learn and they're scrimmaging down and they're just kind of getting lazy, that it's only the up scrimmages that challenge them, and they need a lot more of them. So our success in CLG came in two parts. One, when we started winning scrimmages, and we're able to, our scrimmage winning record is actually insane right now. We have days where we 6-0 our opponents, and a lot of the perfection that you're seeing on stage is as a direct result of that rehearsal against not low quality teams, but teams that we stomp, and are able to get through this practiced repetition of snowball. On the other hand, if we actually started getting insanely better when we were in Korea, getting stomped every single day. We barely won a scrim at all in Korea. And we got 0-0-6'd by KT Rollster, for example. And those were the days where we kind of learned the most, because we were just losing in so many creative and interesting ways, that we were able to see, this is a challenge, right? Because we weren't able to really structurally rehearse a lot of victorious strategy, but we definitely were improving constantly. Every single game we were trying to get 1 minute farther in the game, and you could see by the end of the boot camp we were lasting till 20 minutes against some teams even, which was fantastic. We would last 20 minutes, then we would lose in a fight where they would just completely outclass us. So, and we even started winning some scrimmages. So I think that that was definitely happening, but it's painfully hard to do particularly in League of Legends, because player mentality. You're losing scrimmages, and so it's hard to keep player morale really high. So I think for the sake of I think for the sake of the way that players train and the age of players and the maturity level of players and the experience level of players in most esport teams, LS's statement is completely correct. And definitely if you're a bad team and you got to get good, you got to find a way to train down. So that is my belief, and I think he's right. Big surprise, Ellis is right again, guys. All right, that's the show for today. Thanks everybody for calling in, and appreciate the questions that you asked in Twitch chat, and I hope you guys check out the Mac program, and I will see you all tomorrow.